My name's Richard Christie, and I'll tell you some of the good things I remember about my sweet mother. She was a dedicated Christian, a really child of God. She loved the Lord with all of her heart. She loved the family. She loved all of her children. She prayed for them, I think, probably about every night. And I remember how us three boys used to pick her up. She weighed about 98 pounds. We used to throw her from one to the other, and she'd be screaming, let me down, let me down. But we knew that she was just really eating it up, and she didn't want us to stop. But she was a wonderful woman, patient woman, sweet woman. And one day, by the grace of God, I'm going to see her again when Jesus comes back, and he's coming back again.
My name is Cecilia Williams, and this is my mother. It's hard to hold the picture and the microphone, but her name was Mary Lucille Gaines Dunlap. She was a minister's wife, as my dad was a minister of the Pentecostal Holiness Church in the Upper South Carolina Conference. And, of course, we used to move around a lot, so I was a preacher's kid. But my mom was born in 1908. She passed away in 2005 at the ripe old age of 97 years of age. And she was employed for about 17 years with an elementary school as a dietitian, and later became the cafeteria school manager, and she retired. She also was a member of the Iva Pentecostal Holiness Church in Iva, South Carolina, where she served as Sunday school teacher for the ladies' Bible class for more than 25 years. She was responsible for organizing the first women's ministry at the Iva Pentecostal Holiness Church. She was a wonderful cook. She made the best fried chicken, coconut cakes, pound cakes, yeast rolls, yeast bread, butterscotch pie, and cheesecake. Big Sunday dinners, well known in the community for being a good cook and a good seamstress. She practically made all of my clothes and her clothes too. She even sewed for the public. And she made stuffed animals and dolls for the grandkids in our family. And she loved to also quilt, and she made a beautiful cathedral quilt, but we all have her quilts. She was always working with her hands on a project until her eyesight failed with macular degeneration. When I was going through a very rough time, she reminded me of a verse in Psalms 103, verse 14. He knoweth our frame, he remembereth that we are dust. It was a comfort to me to know that God still loved me in spite of my failures, and that he has great compassion for his children. I miss her so very much, but I do look forward to the day when I will see her again.
That is awesome. So I've got one question. This is spontaneous. If you could describe your mom in one word, what would it be?
Humble.
I would like to tell you about my mother, Elizabeth Phillips. What I know most about my mama, she was a prayer warrior. She would pray for air. I'd wake up in the middle of the night. She had 13 children. I can remember her calling every one of her children's name in prayer. But my story, I want to tell you that I seen prayer work and answered. I had three brothers that were drafted into World War II. My youngest brother was 18 years old. He was drafted. We got a notification from the Army that he was missing in action, and for 3-4 months we didn't know whether he was alive or dead. But Mother said he was praying. She had the victory that he was alive. One morning about 2 o'clock in the morning, about 4 months later, we heard a knock on the door. My mother hit the floor. When she hit the floor, she said, "That's Julia." Sure enough, when we went to the door, there stood my brother, home from the war. He had been a prisoner of war. He said the way he escaped the prison was there was a man coming and told him to follow him. He followed him out, and through the gate he was took back to his platoon. home safe and sound because of Mother's prayers. She was a praying mother, and I am so thankful that I have her, and that one day I'm going to see her again because she loved prayer and answered prayer. I saw it work. I was only 6 years old, and it's still in my mind. I can still see it today. I hope you have a praying mother also. Thank you, and God bless.
My mama was such a special lady. All the people here in the church know her, and she never had an unkind word to say about anybody. But she raised 3 of her own children, 4 that were not her own. And when we were small children, I will never forget how she sat with us every night and read the Bible. She'd read us a Bible story, and then we would have prayer. And sometimes it would be a sentence prayer. Everybody would say what they were thankful for. But that just, she instilled the love of God in her family. And I just love her and appreciate her so much for that. And she was one of the sweetest people you'd ever know, and never had an unkind thing to say about anybody, no matter what. She always had something positive to say about every situation. And I love you, Mama.
So I want to share about my mom real quick. I shared this a couple Wednesday nights ago at church as we were preparing for this. And I know several have shared some serious things. And Mom was serious. Mom cared for us. She always made sure we had everything we needed, was nurturing to us. In fact, if I had to use one word to describe Mom, it would be nurturing. But probably one of my favorite memories of Mom, and we'll probably talk about this at her house on Sunday, is that every now and then on whatever day of the week it was, it didn't matter, but every now and then Mom would take everything that was in the freezer, didn't matter what it was or anything, and she'd put it in a pot and she'd make soup out of it. And I've got, had 2 brothers and a sister. So the 4 of us, we affectionately called this Mama's Slop. And it's world renowned. Everybody, we told our friends about it and different things, but it's just one of those things that we'd eat. And I remember one day I came home from school. It's like, Mom, I'm so hungry. What's for supper? And she announced that it was Mama's Slop was for supper. And everybody who knows me knows I am not a vegetable eater. And as a kid, I certainly wasn't a vegetable eater, so I had to figure out some way to say, you know what, I'm just not that hungry today. So after I'd already said I was. So that's one of my favorite memories of Mom. But I love Mom, all that she meant for us growing up.
My mother was Clellie Walker. Most of y'all remember her. Some of you may not. But she was one of the founding members of this church when it first got on the ground, or got started, I should say. But Mother was a godly woman. I am so thankful for that. But she always at Christmas, when you take pictures around the tree or opening presents, everything's a surprise and you're like, and all this. For her, it was different. We had to wait because she had to get herself, wait. She had to get herself just right before you could take the picture. So she would act surprised when she had already opened everything and already seen it. So this is where all of this comes in. When you see her pictures at Christmas, everything is like just perfect. And I'm thankful that I got to learn how to cook from her, because I consider myself a fairly good cook these days, and I learned a lot from her. I didn't learn to sew. She was a fantastic seamstress. She made all my clothes as a child and into my teens. And so I did not pick that up, but I was always thankful for her gift of sewing. And she was a great member of the church. She worked hard, and I love her, and I miss her so much.
Okay, before you leave, tell me one word that would describe your mom.
I can think of several words, but she was an awesome Christian.
Okay.
And like I said earlier in the beginning, she was a really godly woman. And I try to pattern myself somewhat after her. You always saw her reading her Bible. You always knew she was praying. And she was a good woman. She would do anything for anybody.
I'd just like to say something about my mother since it's Mother's Day. She's no longer with me. She's in heaven, and I hope to see her again. But my mother was a very giving person. I remember when I was a child one Christmas that my mother took me and my sister with her, and we visited this old lady who had nothing. And my mom brought her a Christmas tree and gifts, and I'll never forget the smile on that old woman's face, because my mother had made a difference in her life. My mother made a difference in a lot of lives, and she touched a lot of people in the church and outside the church. And she was dedicated trying to do each and every day what the Lord laid upon her heart. So I'm thankful for the mother that I had, and I would give anything for every child to have a mother like I had growing up. God bless.
Well, my favorite memory, I have a whole lot of them, but I'll just tell you about this one because I've always remembered it. When I started dating Delane and we decided to get married, I took her over to meet my mom and them. They fell in love with her. Anyway, started coming over and decided we was going to get married, and my mom asked her, did she know how to cook? She said, yes, she did. So she invited her over her house one Saturday, wanted to cook a meal and see if she could cook. She said, well, I'm used to cooking for 4. And so Mama got out the stuff for that dinner for Saturday and had her to cook it. And she said, well, that was real delicious. She done a good job. So I just give you one thing to remember when y'all get married. Keep on cooking for 4 and you'll be fine.
My favorite memory about my mother, well, I called her Mama. There's several things about Mom. One of the favorite things about Mom is she loved Christmas. And she loved getting presents. And one of her favorite things, or one of her favorite sayings, when she got something and she really liked it, and she would always say, ooh, wee, looky there, I like that. And that was one of her favorite sayings. We always, everybody always laughed. And another thing about Mom is she was a Vessel Goodman lover. Mother loved to hear Vessel sing. And so Mother sang a lot in different quartets and sang around and went to different churches and everything. And so she wanted to be like Vessel. So she started wearing her hair like Vessel. And she also had that white hanky. And every time Mama sang, just like Vessel, man, she would wave that handkerchief. And those are the good things I remember about my mom. Miss her very much.
My favorite memory of my mother, even though I didn't always enjoy it at the time, was that we always had family devotions. Even when I was in college and I brought college friends home, she would have devotions. And I was with 2 of my friends and their spouses a few weekends ago, and they brought that up, and they felt that it had touched their lives, because she had them to get down and kneel and had prayer. And that's my favorite memory.
Okay, and I got one question I want to ask before you take off. Tell me, if you could describe your mom in one word, what would that word be?
She's feisty. A feisty Christian.
My favorite memory of my mom would have to be the Thanksgiving, and I cannot remember how old I was, but my mom had went to one of the local grocery stores, and for some reason we were going to have Thanksgiving at our house just together as our family. We weren't traveling to my grandparents' house for some odd reason, and I don't remember why, but we were having Thanksgiving meal at our house. And my mom had never cooked a turkey before, and so she went to one of the local supermarkets and got a meal that was already pretty much put together and done, except for the turkey was not completely cooked. It had to be finished off in the oven. And I don't remember why my mom did not use the oven, if it was damaged, wasn't working at the time, or what. But she ended up putting it in the microwave. And so if you can think of the Griswolds Christmas and the lovely, beautiful, dried out turkey that they cut and it just kind of disintegrates, that was our turkey for Thanksgiving that year. But my mom made it wonderful. We ended up doing some other different stuff to go with it to make up for the turkey being dried out. But
all right, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my mother, Kathleen Hall Phillips Trull. She, in my mind, was a saint of a woman. I've told people since she died, had she been Catholic, they would be trying to canonize her. But I'm prejudiced in that way because she was so special to me and my family. She raised 3 of her own children. And when I was just a toddler, my uncle and his 4 children moved up here from Georgia after his wife died, and she raised his 4 children in addition to her 3. And never a cross word about anybody. You could not make her say anything contrary to somebody else. But one of the things that stands out in my mind as a child, and back in those days we actually played outside till dark, and with little concern for our safety other than stepping on a bumblebee or falling out of a tree or something. But she made sure that we all knew that we had to be in the house at a certain time, because at that time we all sat down on the couch and on the floor and the chairs, and she knew, or that we knew, that we had to be there for her to read the Bible and to pray with us. And that was without fail every night. And that made a tremendous impression on me and my siblings and cousins. And I'm so thankful that even though she was not raised in a Christian home, I'm so thankful that she raised her children to know what a Christian home was.
One of my favorite moments being with you is when we went to one of the NASCAR All-Star races in 2010 where Carl Edwards won. It was pretty cool because I think that was one of the first ever races I could remember I ever went with you, and it was really fun to watch. And that's probably one of the first moments I ever got into NASCAR.
A favorite memory I have of my mom is when I was 7 and I was visiting my grandparents, and like a week later they had to take me back, but in Atlanta we had a car accident and we had to go to the hospital, and my mom drove from Louisiana to Georgia in one day, and I just felt very loved.
okay, before you take off, I want you to think of one word that describes your mom.
Sarcasm.
So my favorite memory with my mom is when we went to Dollywood in Pigeon Forge. Excuse me. And she went on the biggest roller coaster there, and with my little brother and my grandparents, and she was scared to death. It was so funny. She was shaking when she got off the ride, and it was funny. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, before you take off, I want you to tell me one word that describes your mom.
Incredible.
I think my favorite story of my mom is the one time I left a massive glob of jelly on the counter, and she got very upset about it. It was pretty funny, right? And she added a middle name. It was hilarious. She said, "William Edward Harrison Burns, you get up here and clean up this." It was hilarious. Yeah, that's my story.
So about 10 or 11 years ago, we had took a family trip up to the beach. And we had been there for a few days. And I want to say about the second night, we decided we were going to go take a nighttime stroll on the beach. This is a very key detail. And we had brought these flashlights, and we're looking for shells and all these different things, and we're shining the flashlight around, looking, and Mom, me, William, and Mackenzie, I think even Destiny, we were all doing something stupid. So Mom was walking backwards, either to fuss at us or we were joking around, something like that. And Mom she was walking backwards, so she wasn't really paying attention where she was walking. And Arnay and Pawpaw were up in front of her, and I want to believe they said something about watch out for that nest. And about that time they said that Mom stepped in the crab nest. And the little hole that she stepped in had a crab in it. And it shot up at her foot. And when that first wing popped up, here comes the rest. And honestly, it's like a scene from a horror movie. They all just kind of start popping up everywhere. And Mom ran like a little leprechaun out of this crab's nest. It was a big nest, too. So she like literally running like a little leprechaun, dancing on her tippy toes, running up out of there. And about the time she got out of there, she was also screaming like a little schoolgirl at the same time, because, they were literally popping up out of nowhere. But I think that's Mackenzie's favorite memory. It's mine too, but I think it's Mackenzie's favorite memory. Am I right about that? Yeah. What is the one word that you're able to use to describe Mom? Brave. Brave?
I would have to say my favorite memory of my mom would probably, I can't choose one. It's just, we've been to so many races, past couple of weeks on the race shots, Christmas gifts. She's just really loving and really kind to me, and I can't, pick one memory. But if I really had to, it'd probably be 2017 All-Star race, because last race I've been to, and she was there, and my favorite driver Suarez won the Open. So I was happy I got to experience that with her there. So, yeah, favorite memory.
Well, I remember one time my sister and I were at my mom's, and we all needed groceries. And I had the kids with me. Both of them were small then. And we all decided to go, even though Mom was expecting a man to deliver some pants for her to alter. And so she said she'd go if we'd hurry, so we rushed in and we bought everything. And we bought about everything. I was driving a Fiat, the little ones, and I had both the kids, my mom and my sister, and she was expecting. So we all had to get in the car along with all our groceries, a laundry basket, and the old-fashioned big crates of drinks, the wooden crates. We had all kinds of watermelon, I don't know what all was in that car. And we stuffed the kids in there, and on the way back, Mom was saying, hurry, hurry, And we passed the guy he was walking down the sidewalk to Mom's house, bringing the pants for alterations, and she was trying to get there before him. And we were all so tickled we couldn't stand it, and we think we all probably wet our pants when you get so tickled. But that was one of the fun times we had.
So the first memory that really comes to mind would have to be back when we were at the first house I can really remember in Newton, North Carolina, which is my hometown. And Sunday naps are essential to me now. I adore them now. You will never not catch me napping on a Sunday if it is within my will. But when I was a kid, I absolutely hated naps, despised them. Don't know why, but I did. One Sunday, there were a couple Sundays where it was me, William, and Mackenzie. I think Destiny might have been laying in bed, but she wasn't napping. Me, William, and Mackenzie. We're kids. We're coming out of that. I don't think we're coming out of the toddler stage, if I am not wrong. not babies, but we're old enough to know when Mama says something to listen. And this is one of the times where we did not listen. There were a couple Sundays where we were loud enough to wake Mama up. And she kind of fussed at us, but not really, nothing, just kind of a stern talking to. Well, Dad that Sunday finally told us that if we were not quiet and enough to let Mama nap, we were going to be in big trouble this time. Well, we did not listen, which we should have, because this is when we were still in public school. The following morning, we still had to wake up at butt crack of dawn, is what I call it, about 6 o'clock. And all I remember is hearing this loud clanging sound. Well, what I failed to remember was Mama's threat was if we did not keep it down enough to let her sleep, she was going to wake us up with pots and pans. I thought she was joking. My mistake, because I did indeed Monday morning get woken up with pots and pans. And when I say there was a loud, it wasn't these tiny little pans, these tiny little pots. She grabbed the biggest pan, the biggest pot she can find, and just marching through the house, literally marching through the house, just clanging those together. A very rude awakening, if I might say. But that's, looking back on it now, we kind of laugh, but that's really the first memory that comes to mind.